Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am just another tinfoil hat. Welcome to my show. Today, we are going to be discussing the strange saga of a creature which really made a name for itself. And by that I mean it really made a name for itself. So without further ado, let's introduce ourselves to Flix. Perhaps better known as the Conser Lake creature, this is truly a story and a half, and includes sightings of a semi-aquatic, white-furred, Bigfoot-like creature, claims of telepathic communication, and further claims of a genuine Scooby-Doo style ploy. So Conser Lake 2 is actually located on private property now, but the location is in Lynn County, Oregon, somewhere between the towns of Albany and Millersburg. And the events which we're going to detail today occurred in the late 50s to early 60s. Now, one of the first occurrences to really mark the beginning of this era of absolute high strangeness was a sighting reported by a mint truck driver in 1959. He claimed that as he was driving his mint truck, going about 35 miles per hour, a monster which resembled a shaggy white gorilla kept pace with his vehicle and looked inside the cab, only vamoosing as he neared the mint distillery. Other sightings in the area included sightings of some massive bulletproof something or other which left huge footprints and apparently sounded something like a cat. Now, in addition to the sightings of weird creatures, one of the newspapers details an account of a flying saucer which crashed into Conser Lake in 1959. Unfortunately, they don't really have any further details, just that apparently it was kind of common knowledge that something strange had happened there. And the next year, in 1960, the Corvallis Gazette-Times discussed a sighting of a UFO by over half a dozen witnesses in the skies of Albany. However, the case which really kicked off the excitement occurred the night of July 31st, 1960, and involved, like so many of these cryptid cases, a group of teenagers. 6 guys and a girl, to be exact. 2 of the boys decided that they wanted to go on ahead and sneak around and then jump out to frighten their friends. I'll go on the record and say that this is usually a very bad idea. But anyway, they went on ahead, and just as they were preparing to jump out, they heard this loud crashing noise coming from the underbrush. Pretty soon it became apparent exactly what was making that loud crashing noise. An over 7-foot tall, white-furred creature, described by some of the group to look like a polar bear, and others to look like a gorilla. Perhaps weirdest of all was its eerie cry, which they described as sounding like a high-pitched fleep or flueep type noise. You get the vibe kind of almost of like B-movie flying saucer type sound effects. One of the boys also said that the creature sounded as though it was wearing wet overshoes, that it made this weird squishy type noise as it walked. So yeah, that's a really, truly bizarre way to start off a monster panic. And that is exactly what ensued. One of the boys, George Hess, went on ahead to report the creature to the sheriff, while the others returned to the area with, you may have guessed it, a posse of gun-toting monster hunters. Apparently, through the course of the next couple of weeks, Conser Lake was not just haunted by the monster, which also came to claim the name the Ghost of Conser Lake, due to its white coloring and also some of its more strange characteristics, but countless people looking to shoot the creature either by camera or bullet. As a matter of fact, one teenage boy had a very close call as he was out fishing on the lake with 2 of his friends. He heard probably one of the last statements you'd want to hear in a monster hotspot. "There he is!" before 2 bullets narrowly missed his noggin. There are a lot of articles which were calling out for people to please be safe. Don't go out trying to shoot the monster of Conser Lake. You're going to end up killing someone. And so reports also were coming in, though. Lots of people were seeing this creature. Apparently, it must have either really liked mint or hated the stuff. A mint farmer, Clarence Starr, claimed that the monster had trampled down so much of his harvest he didn't know how much he'd be able to salvage. And he wasn't the only farmer in the area having these issues. One article references that many farmers as well as visitors were seeing this strange creature. Now, apparently, large, webbed, duck-like prints were left in the areas in which the monster had been spotted, and there's even one account of someone finding handprints. A resident of Deaver Connor, Mrs. Penning, claimed that she found the handprints 2 weeks after some odd events had started up on her property. This began with this strange noise, almost a dripping type noise, like a leaky rain spout, which she heard from outside, which then turned into a low-pitched crying noise that gradually gained pitch until it tapered off with a squeal she described as sounding almost like a pig. When she looked out the window, she observed a light figure with white furry paws leaving the area. Now, 2 weeks after that occurrence, she was in the home for the evening with her sister when they heard a rapping begin at one window and then continue at a separate window. It was upon going to investigate that they found the prints on the window, which included a very wide palm and strangely perfect parallel fingers. Also in the area, there was the mysterious killing, actually shredding, of 2 hound dogs which were reportedly sent out after the beast. Some witnesses even claimed headaches after their encounter, while others claimed that in the area prior to their sighting, everything went silent, almost in kind of like an Oz factor sort of effect. Now, this, if you can believe it, is where the story gets really interesting. Betty Westby was responsible for much of the reporting on the Conser Lake creature during this time, often describing in detail her treks out to the Conser Lake area, looking for the monster and usually finding a bunch of teens with shotguns. However, one adventure truly stands out. On one of these occasions, Ms. Westby decided to bring along a friend of hers, a local telepath, who among many other things claimed he doesn't like to be called a monster. When pressed for a better title, the entity said that alien or visitor would suffice. However, Ms. Westby asked if he would mind the term creature, and it was like, no, that's all right, so the creature of Conser Lake it is. But among the really lengthy telepathic conversation had between the telepath and the creature, in which it discussed how he meant no harm, how he came only with affection for the creatures of Earth, and how he was lonely, he actually eventually settled on an even better name. When the telepath asked exactly what he'd like to be called, he replied, "My name is Flix. There are many like me, but I am the one called Flix." Now, perhaps most surprisingly, this was not the only claim of Flix-sourced telepathy around. One witness by the name of Alvin Hammock claimed that one fine day as he was searching for the creature, he tried to project forth a vibe that it didn't need to fear him, it could be totally at peace and chill. And got the snarky telepathic reply, "How do I know I can?" Alvin claimed that he believed that this was a reference to the jackknife he was holding on to and decided to ditch it in the car. Now, on the way back, he experienced something that really edges into what the heck territory. Alvin claimed that he had to step over some water and supported himself on a tree limb, and at that moment was shoved by no one. Thoroughly freaked out, he decided just to book it out of there, and halfway back to the car looked back to see if anyone was following him. He looked back just in time to see the grass flattening into a perfect 20-inch diameter circle under some unknown pressure. Now, of course, the papers in the area had a heyday with the monster mania, and the usual explanations abounded, from the typical suspect of escaped circus monkeys to renegade cows. Although one letter to the editor got downright philosophical, claiming that good-natured folks from another planet had dropped some undesirable on the Conser Lake region. However, in the Albany Democrat Herald from October of 1964, so some years after the events, there is a true oddity among cryptid encounters, something that can only make you shake your head and say, zoinks. Apparently, the running theory is that all sightings of the Conser Lake creature were nothing more than the efforts by owners of an illegal liquor cache to scare away teenagers from said cache. Now, for one thing, man, did that plan backfire or what? Not only did the initial teenagers return, but man, they brought so many people through the area. At one point, it's claimed that over 200 people were in the Conser Lake area at the same time, toting cameras and shotguns. But also, I feel much like the silver-painted monkeys of the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, that this really leaves a lot to be desired. Front and center, the 1959 encounter by the mint trucker, who again claimed that a white, shaggy gorilla had kept pace with him as he traveled 35 miles per hour. It's really difficult to imagine someone being able to do that in a bulky ape costume. Also, too, it's a little difficult to imagine someone still traipsing around in an ape costume when, again, there were usually dozens of people toting shotguns in the area. You also wonder if any of them actually found the cache. Now, regarding the sightings themselves, that is a whole nother can of worms. Actually, it's a whole, stock of cans of worms. These were very intriguing, multifaceted encounters. One of the first things to stand out to me is probably the incidents which occurred to Mrs. Penning. Of course, the rapping first on one window, then another, is really indicative of poltergeist phenomena. Now, researchers from Kiel to Kuchen have pointed out the similarities between poltergeists and hairy hominids, and this appears to be no exception, right down to the leaving of kind of bizarre prints on the residents. Also, the flattening of the mint fields, or that strange 20-inch diameter circle in the grass. I mean, there's obvious ties to crop circles and mowing devils or fairy rings there. I will also say that this case truly stands out as being incredibly cross-field. I mean, the papers entertain all manner of different explanations. There's talk of psychics, UFOs, extraterrestrials. Someone even said that the thing floated effortlessly like a ghost. So there are a lot of different paranormal descriptors being used regarding this one creature. However, in my opinion, the real showstopper has got to be the claims of telepathic communication. Regardless of the inherent factuality of the statements made, the fact that at least 2 people claim to have some form of telepathic rapport with a Sasquatch-like creature is just downright intriguing, and surprisingly enough, not the only case in which something like this has occurred. An albeit very different type of telepathic exchange can be found in Stan Gordon's Silent Invasion, in which a witness experienced almost a possession-type scenario after seeing these Sasquatch-like creatures. Now, what's really, really interesting here, though, is that Flix's conversation kind of follows the pattern which we've come to expect from the channeling of UFO-related entities. I mean, even with, preferring to be referred to as an alien or visitor, it doesn't stop there, though, with Flix even having the statement of affection for the creatures of Earth, I mean no harm, and please leave me in peace. Even the name Flix, it sounds like it comes straight from some sort of, flying saucer sci-fi double feature. And given only his telepathic statements, this seems a lot more like something from a little green man in a tin can than a giant semi-aquatic white-furred Sasquatch-like creature with a propensity to harass mint farms. So all in all, this is truly a fantastic case that weaves together so many different aspects. It's just incredibly, incredibly strange. So if you enjoyed this episode on Flix, the creature of Conser Lake, please like, and if you're new to this field of crop circles, go ahead and subscribe to see what weirdness the future may have in store. Till then, you can keep up with whatever else I might possibly be doing on my website, justanothertinfoilhat.com, and for exclusive content, make sure to check out my Patreon page, which is listed under, get ready for this, Just Another Tinfoil Hat. For today, I am Zelia Edgar, signing off.
Doing.